It is 6 o'clock, and we'll call this meeting of the Board of Commissioners to order. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to put a couple of commissioners on the spot since I did not ask beforehand. Commissioner Brunson, would you give our invocation? And Commissioner Fendig, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
If you'd stand with me. Father God, we come before you tonight thanking you for all the blessings that you've given us, for your grace, your mercy, and your love. And Lord, for allowing us to work and serve and in this wonderful community that we have. We ask you to be with us tonight as we go through our deliberations for representing the citizens of this great county. Father, as always, your protective hand over our law enforcement folks and home and abroad. And we ask that all of our actions tonight would bring honor and glory to you. And it's in your name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we go forward in tonight's meeting, I would like to take a moment to remember Chief Carl Alexander. Chief Alexander was a pillar in our community. He was absolutely a servant to this community and had a servant's heart. I didn't know Chief Alexander for a long period of time, but in the last few years I've got to know him a good bit better, and we shared several meetings together. And the one thing that I really picked up with Chief Alexander was his servant's heart. If we were in a meeting and he saw anybody needed anything, he was the one that would get up in the meeting and go take care of those needs. And it just struck me that this is a man that loved this county, and he dedicated his life to it. So I would like to take just a moment to just a prayer for him and his family. If you would bow with me, please. Father, we just thank you for the life of Carl Alexander. We thank you for all that he did for his beloved Glynn County. We pray that you would just be with his family through this time of grieving. We know, Father, that these times are never easy. But as we mourn the loss, we know that we also celebrate his presence with you. So guide us, Father, through these days, through this time. Please bring peace and comfort to all that knew and loved him. And it's in your name we pray. Amen. Thank you for allowing us to do that. We are here tonight to proclaim April 18 through 24, 2021 as Glynn County Crime Victims' Rights Week. And we have our DA, Keith Higgins, with us tonight. We want to present to him this proclamation. And if you'll indulge my reading, I would like to read it into the record at this time. Recognizing April 18 through 24, 2021 as Glynn County's Crime Victims' Rights Week. Whereas in 1982, the President's Task Force on Victims of Crime envisioned a national commitment to a more equitable and supportive response to victims. And whereas this commemorative week celebrates the energy, perseverance, and commitment that launched the Victims' Right movement, inspired its progress, and continues to advance the cause of justice for crime victims. And whereas incorporating communities, existing experts, and trusted sources of support into efforts to fully serve survivors will develop a criminal justice systems response that is truly accessible and appropriate for all victims of crime. And whereas with the unwavering support of their communities and victim service providers behind them, Survivors will be empowered to face their grief, loss, fear, anger, and hope without fear of judgment, and will feel understood, heard, and respected. And whereas engaging in a broader array of healthcare providers, community leaders, faith organizations, educators, and businesses can provide new links between victims and services that improve their safety, healing, and access to justice. And whereas honoring the rights of victims, including the rights to be heard and to be treated with fairness, dignity, and respect, and working to meet the needs rebuilds their trust in the criminal justice and social service systems. And whereas National Crimes Victim Rights Week provides an opportunity to recommit the ensuring that all victims of crime, especially those who are challenging to reach or serve, are offered culturally and linguistically accessible and appropriate services in the aftermath of crime. And whereas the Glynn County Commissioners is hereby dedicated to strengthening victims and survivors in the aftermath of crime, building resilience in our communities and our victim response, and working for a better future for all victims and survivors. And now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Glynn County Board of Commissioners that do hereby proclaim the week of April 18th through 24, 2021 as National Crimes Victim Rights Week, and reaffirm Glynn County's commitment to creating a victim service and criminal justice response that assists all victims of crime during National Crimes Victims Rights Week and throughout the year. And to express our sincere gratitude and appreciation for those community members, victim service providers, and criminal justice professionals who are committed to improving our response to all victims of crime so that they may find relevant assistance, support, justice, and peace. In witness thereof, I set my hand this 15th day of April 2021, Wayne Neal, Chairman. Thank you for tolerating my reading. Mr. DA, would you come forward with us, please? I think this is the second time that I've skipped over public comment period. I'm getting pretty good at that. But I believe that the people that were coming forward to speak tonight have decided not to speak. Is there anyone here in that public comment period, Ms. Bullard or Ms. Caraway? And I don't believe they stayed. So with that, we'll move forward to our consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to approve the consent agenda, general business, and I believe that's it, with the exception of any item that a commissioner wishes to pull for discussion.
Have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I understand that number 11 is to be deferred and
Right.
pulled off the agenda.
And I was waiting on a second, and then I do believe that item number 11 is asked to be pulled.
And Mr. Chairman, I'd like to pull item 9.
Okay. We'll pull item 9, but I did not get a second to this.
Second.
All right. Have a motion and a second with the exception of item 9 and item 11. Item 11 will be deferred until another meeting. All in favor of this motion, please raise your right hand. That is unanimous. And Commissioner Booker,
Aaron, are we, this lease, is this for the slave cabins?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now, who owns the slave cabins?
The county has a portion of those that's on county property. Another portion of those fall on the garden club's property, and they leased
On the
out.
what property?
So the actual cabins themselves are on the garden club's property. There's some foundations and some remnants that are on the county's property, and that's what they have been taking care of under the lease for some time.
So the cabins are completely on the Casino Garden Club's property?
Yes, sir,
And
that's
they're owned by them?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so what we're leasing is something close to there?
It's right next to there. It's right next to it. It's my understanding that there's some, not the actual cabins that we see today, but maybe some of the footings of the cabins that used to be there. There were more cabins there in the past than there are now. But I believe the actual cabins that exist that you see are on their property. They caretake the portion of the county's property that's right immediately adjacent to it.
Okay, so if there was a group wanted to maybe reconstruct on the county's property, would this lease allow for that?
The lease does not contemplate that, but the lease does give the county the ability to work with the garden club to make that happen. There's provisions in there that, it's a 5-year lease, and this is a 5-year extension. However, the leases are drafted so they're really 90-day, county can terminate any of these agreements with 90 days notice. So that gives the county the ability to work with them to kind of shape the property the way it wants to.
Okay. But I want to make it clear, I totally support them doing this in all the 40 years, 50 years that they've been doing this, and they've been doing a great job at it. I think that there's just there's some folk who want to do some things and help enhance what we have there, so that there's a better experience and a more accurate experience also.
And I think that's a good point, Commissioner, and I can't speak for them in terms of that, but my experience with them is also very positive, that I think they'd be more than willing and happy to, work with the county and whoever that county may want to work with them to showcase what's out there.
Okay, all right, thanks. I guess I can make a recommendation that we accept we approve the extension, 5-year extension for the Casino Garden Club's request as presented.
second. Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Then all in favor, please raise your right hand. And that is unanimous. Item number 12 is to consider the approval of the issuance of a purchase order to ProLogic ITS in the amount of $28,446.56 to purchase and install police equipment for 4 Dodge Charger pursuit vehicles with funding to be provided by the FY21 Police Fund Capital Projects budget. Chief Evans?
Good afternoon, Chairman and Commission. Yes, we're here asking for the approval of issuance of a purchase order for ProLogic ITS for 4 Dodge Chargers in the amount of $28,446.56. This is, like you said, provided by the FY21 budget, and the cars are currently at the county shop awaiting the approval. That way they can be transported and completely outfitted for servicing on the road.
All right, sir. Commissioners, do we have any discussion on this? If not, entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the purchase order of ProLogic ITS in the amount of $28,446.56 to purchase and install police equipment for 4 Dodge Charger Pursuit vehicles with funding to be provided by FY21 Police Fund Capital Projects budget.
Have a motion? Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please raise your right hand. That is unanimous.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, sir. Item number 13, consider approval of a change order number 1 in an amount not to exceed $36,000 with EMC Engineering for the Canal Road Improvements Project Engineering Contract with funds currently allocated to the project in SPLOST 2016. Mr. Andrews?
Commissioners, good evening. Paul Andrews, County Engineer. This item is a follow-on to the item presented at your last meeting. The last meeting, there was a request to ask the engineer to reevaluate their costs and see if they could provide the county with a better cost for the scope of services that they were offering. Yeah, the EMC Engineering is our engineer for this project. They prepared a write-up, and down at the bottom reflects their original change order that y'all saw at the last meeting, reduced down with the change order here. Involved them reevaluating the assumptions they made as they put their cost proposal together as to how much effort it would take and what possible work would be needed. Just for clarification, I don't believe might not have been as clear the last time. This change order and the amount requested is a not to exceed amount. Per the contract, EMC Engineering will be working under a hourly rate fee on this. So they will be working to do and bill against this amount based on the work they do. So it may be that they are able to do the work and get it completed without utilizing all these funds. And the next item, there was also, you go one more, also it came up as to what the cost of construction, what the impacts to the cost of construction would be on this project. EMC prepared a cost estimate of what impacts it making this change, reducing that medium width and going from a grass to a paved median. There would be, is pretty close to balanced, about $2,500 more is what we're expecting based on cost
Paul, we don't
estimates
have
now.
that. Could you blow that up so we can see what we got there? It's
we
not
need to
in
blow
our
that up because that's not on ours, 20.
packet here.
I don't, how do you, can you zoom in on it? Yeah, I didn't realize.
Paul, if they're just taking the center lane out, why would there be environmental permitting?
Well, that was the question, is this has the potential to have some Corps of Engineers impacts along the side. And the question was, is the Corps going to require that they redo all the exhibits that are part of the Corps permit to reflect this change? That was what, EMC had included it, and I believe they removed that, assuming that we would be able to work with the existing exhibits.
Well, what they dropped it from 6,500 to 4,000. We had a conversation earlier about this. I still think we're probably $12,000 too high. You know, 24 to me would seem like a better change order. And I understand that they're only going to bill whatever they do. But I mean, that's like, here's my checkbook, go get it. I mean, to me.
Gentlemen, is there any other discussion on this matter?
Yeah, I guess I would like to know if we're at the cap amount is what, 12,000 less than their proposal amount? It was originally 48,000?
Yes, sir.
So what was the $12,000 difference?
It was in the $12,000 difference was in our package.
If you'd like
EMC
EMC's
Kip,
here.
would you like to come up and address?
That's what you were talking, okay.
Good evening, Kip Goodbread, EMC Engineering.
Right.
I don't have the specifics with me on the exact breakdown of everything that we took out. We reevaluated some man hours in there that we had budgeted for several different things, meetings. The core number was higher originally. So there are several different things
So
there.
the
I don't have
environmental
that.
permitting revision, I mean, I can see that, I mean, the actual number difference, but I guess I was trying to figure out how did you come to reducing it?
And just to give you kind of a background, I think you asked about the wetland exhibit. So when this first started, the Corps was claiming jurisdiction over ditches at that time, and that's the wetland exhibits were prepared based on that. And then last year, there was a ruling that went in effect from Trump where the Corps no longer had jurisdiction of certain types of ditches and isolated wetlands. And so part of this was the environmental consultant ended up, they had everything prepared and ready to submit, and when that ruling came out, they had to go back and redo that application for the better for Glynn County, because obviously the less that you have to pay impacts on, the better off you are. And so that was one of those unknowns. We don't know now that the administration has changed. There is potential that the Corps could sit on this for a while, especially if they know rulings are changing, and it could come back and they say, well, we're going to claim jurisdiction over these wetland areas again. And so that would require these exhibits to be changed again based on the new width and so forth. So that's just an example for the wetlands, and while that number, we reduced some where we had a budget and we reduced it, but there was still some additional costs here that we've already been invoiced with the first change.
Okay. Well, and I just wanted to make sure it was clear to the public that you just didn't have a number in there. And then when we
sir.
pushed back on the amount, then you just reduced it. That there was a specific reason for you changing it.
Yes, sir. We have a spreadsheet that for every task and what position would be involved and so forth. And in that, we know, well, this is what is taken as far as man hours on other projects like this and how much time we've had in it. And that's what we go back at. We look at man hours for this. So in this process, we went back and said, well, maybe it won't take quite this much. So we're going to pull out some man hours for that and then do our best to get it to work in that time frame. And we do that for every line item in that spreadsheet.
Okay, thanks.
So it's not just hey, I'm just going to reduce it by a certain percentage or whatever. We've looked at it pretty hard.
Gentlemen, is there any other discussion before we ask for a motion? And Paul, can you put the motion back up on the screen, please? Yes, sir. And do I hear a motion?
Can I ask one question? In the contract, when we have with EMC, do we have it spelled out when we have change orders? Because invariably there are change orders. Is it prescribed how they should be calculated at what hourly rate? How is that determined?
We have a standard rate sheet that they use based on the positions that they're, for a survey tech or an engineer or a senior engineer, and they apply those hourly rates. What Mr. Goodbread was saying is that they're making estimates based on their hourly effort, how long they think their staff is going to take, and then equate it out to
And then
dollars.
who reviews the hourly determination or how they come up with that determination? Do you review that? I mean,
We-
when they come to with a change order, you've reviewed it, or someone in the county government, in your department or Public Works has reviewed it and said, this looks reasonable, or this looks unreasonable. Is that correct?
We have not reviewed their hourly breakdown.
Okay.
We just have looked at the items that they had broken out there as to how much it would take to change.
So when the original 48 was brought to us, had you reviewed the hourly time that they kind of had selected and reviewed the
No, sir.
So basically it was just kind of given to us and said, looks good. Is that what I'm hearing?
They said this is what they felt like it would take to complete the task. And looking at that and talking with staff, given the amount of plans, is we didn't feel it was wholly out of the bounds of what the cost would be. But as a not to exceed amount, the cost that they're offering is what they offered at the 48 was a very inclusive. They were wanting to be conservative to make sure that they had enough money to get to that finish line. And I believe part of what EMC did, like Mr. Goodbread was saying, is they looked at their hourly effort, and instead of saying, we want to make sure we have enough, they reduced it down to say that we will have a good shot at getting here, kind of, which is the more conservative way they went on those estimates to reduce that amount.
I guess I'm just confused why when it first came up, it wasn't what I would call vetted or reviewed carefully by you or your office or your department to say you felt comfortable. I'm hearing you say that you felt comfortable based on what you saw, but it doesn't sound like there was a deep dive into it. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
No, so we rely on them the firm is hired with that broad experience, and them doing these projects are more than just the county's project, and their ability to look back at their records and say how much effort has this taken for their firm to do this work. It's a different amount of effort that the county would do if we were going to try to do this same work because of the level of experience and the level of abilities that we have here at the county. So I don't mind pulling those up. We can certainly sit down with them.
Paul,
Yes, sir.
the original bid to do the project was 200,000, roughly?
A little bit up, 250,
250.
just shy of that.
So I think that's where we got caught, where our questions came up, because this is a fifth, right?
Yes, sir.
And the 50,000 would be a fifth of it, just to take a median out. That's where our concerns came from, and I understand what David's saying too.
Yes, sir.
That maybe we should look a little harder as these things happen.
We certainly can.
Yes, it just lends itself to the, are we just depending on their level of experience and expertise when they present a change order to us, or? I was thinking something different, but go ahead.
No, we're asking them based on their experience and expertise and their staffing levels they have in their office, what it would cost their firm to do this work.
Okay.
And that's reflective in the change order amount they gave us. But it also is, and Kip, I'm happy for you is what they see as might be potential troubles that they would include in that change order. Since it's not a given amount, they're only billing on the hourly rates. I would encourage them to give a conservative number on that so that we have enough funds for them to continue their effort. If it turns out the Corps says, we've got some new rulings coming down, we need to change this, so we're not back here in a couple of months getting another couple of $1,000 change order to address that we would already have those funds available in that change order if they needed it. But taking the approach of reducing that scope down is certainly
Okay, I guess I'm just, I guess, chiming in with the other commissioners' concern about when they present something to us, how do we vet that to make sure it's in line? And I know they're going to make sure that they cover all the time that they need so that they get paid what they're supposed to get paid. But we shouldn't get caught with a overly burdensome change order for something like this.
Absolutely. Do you have?
I just wanted to address your question. I think someone mentioned, at a total contract that this was a fifth of what the original was. But to kind of put that in perspective, the design plans were completed based on what we were asked for by the county. And what the item that you've asked us to come back and redo is 50% of that roadway section. That is actual, I know you guys look at it as, well, we're just taking out a median, but it's more from a design standpoint and drafting and putting plans together than just taking out of a median. So what you're really asking us to do is redesign 50% of that roadway for this first phase, but our additional cost order is not 50% of the original contract. It's only I think it's 18% of the original contract, although we are doing 50% of the work, not quite 50%, but pretty close on the roadway redesign.
Now, it's a 4-lane, 2 on each side, and you're taking a middle lane out, so that's 50%. 1 lane is 50%? I can't get that math.
No, I'm saying is from point A to point B, we're coming back and we're redesigning right at 50% of that distance for the
Mr.
roadway
Goodbread,
design.
I think part of what's being missed here is the narrowing of the scope, so maybe you need to back up a little bit and tell us that, it was a 20-foot lane that went down to a 14-foot lane, so that changes the ditch profiles, moves, not the ditch, but the sideline profiles as well as the center lane.
That's right. So we're staying in, we're holding the same center line of the road to stay in the center of the right of way. So when we do that, we have the original center lane or divided median was 20-foot wide. Now we're bringing that down to a 14-foot wide lane. So we're taking everything on the right side that we've got drawn and we're moving it in 3 feet. And everything on the left side, and we're moving in 3 feet. Well, when you do that, you affect your striping plans, you affect your grading plans, you affect your soil and erosion plans, and so forth in that set. So out of a 35-sheet set, we're revising 21 of those sheets to show that change properly. In addition to going about redoing cost estimates, bid schedules, and so forth. And it's just a lot of man hours that's involved with that. If you were just designing this road from scratch at the beginning, and it wasn't that wide of a road, then it's easier from a CAD standpoint of making those changes because you've got all these different lines. We work in layers, but you have all this stuff stacked on top of each other. And when you're in that drawing, there's a lot of work just moving things to make sure you don't miss something and it's all correct. I don't know how to, if you're not familiar with that program and what we do, it's kind of hard for me to explain the very tedious details that you're working with in there, but the man hours are there.
I guess in my simple mind, I'm just thinking that, it's a click of a mouse and you're working on paper, and we're not actually digging anything or tearing up anything or building anything. We're in a drawing room working on this, and I guess that's where the rub comes. My question to you is, do y'all have a governmental rate and a private rate on things like that when you're dealing with government agencies versus dealing with someone that's building a infrastructure to a development? Is there two different scales?
No, it's pretty much the same.
Okay. So private sector's paying what the government are paying, or we're paying what the private sector would pay. Okay, thank you.
Gentlemen, any other discussion? Mr. Andrews, I think you see that probably going forward, it would be prudent on the staff's part to examine these change orders perhaps a little closer as you bring this stuff. We would appreciate you taking a look at those, vetting them a little closer. I do want to thank EMC for reconsidering that cost and bringing us back the savings that they brought us. And thank you. I know this isn't exactly comfortable.
Well, it's fine by me. I just to be clear, what we do is this didn't come unexamined, but we have a understanding of what effort EMC is going to bring to it. I did that for 10 years, just what Kip was saying. And so that's the level of review that we had, was this doesn't seem unreasonable, knowing the amount of man-hour efforts they were going to do. But I'm happy to have them present to us, and we can look at, in the detailed numbers, but that's probably not going to be as advantageous to me, because I don't know what skill level their people work at, where they do. But we can certainly get more detail on it, absolutely.
Thank you. Gentlemen, can we entertain a motion here?
Mr. Chairman, I move to recommend that the Board of Commissioners accept the change order number 1 in a not-to-exceed amount of $36,000 from EMC Engineering with funds currently allocated to the project in Splash 2016.
Have a motion. Can we get a second? Second. All right. Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
This is a 2016 SPLOST project, correct? From
Yeah.
The engineering.
Yeah. I think the heartburn is not in the bids that are not to exceed. I mean, it's in when we write the check. And I think that what the commission is looking for is, when we write the check, are we getting our value per hour, per engineer? And that's really what it's all about. I mean, I understand if you're doing something not to exceed, you're going to try to cover the basis of any potential liability that you might have. That's not the real issue here. I mean, it's a little bit disturbing when you talk 48 and drop to 36, but I think they went to great lengths to try to justify the 48 and not to exceed the 48. And so, but I think where we're looking at is, when we write the check, when they give us an invoice, that we want to make sure that the hours are appropriate for the work that's been done. And, EMC is a wonderful company. They've been here forever and done work for more than this county. They've done work for a lot of people, and I've never, we're not questioning their integrity, obviously, but I just think some accountability there is where the heartburn is with this crowd sitting up here to die.
As the bills come in, they will reflect this and what work was done under that change order, and we will make sure that is appropriate to the work that we're seeing done.
Commissioner Brunson kind of echoed the sentiment. Again, people may be wondering why a change order like this. It's because as this project moves forward, new property owners come in, and the adjoining property owners have seen the plans. They are requesting this change be made. They did not want a raised median, so it was pushed by the property owners on both sides of the road to make this change. Okay.
Thank you. Gentlemen, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your right hand. I believe we came unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Mr. Goodbread. Item number 14, consider approval of an issuance of a purchase order to Engineered Lifting Systems LLC of Fenton, Missouri for a 3-ton boat hoist system at Blythe Island Regional Park as recommended by the Park Advisory Board in the amount of $39,525 with funding to be provided by the General Fund Undesignated Fund Balance. Mr. Garganis.
Good evening, Commissioners. How are y'all doing this evening? So a lot of things have happened since we put this together about a week ago, and I want to bring you up to speed on. So back in March, at the recommendation of the Park Advisory Board, brought forward a request to issue an invitation for bids for a new 3-ton boat hoist system at Blythe Island Regional Park, which you can see a picture of it on your screen. That is what the Park Board recommended doing, and this board approved issuing that bid. Bids were advertised on March 5th, and we received one bid for the hoist system that included installation, startup, delivery, etc., from a company in Fenton, Missouri, Engineered Lifting Systems, LLC, with the total cost of $39,525. I had a conversation just very recently with Commissioner Rafalski, who asked me to see what I could do to explore options to reduce the cost, particularly related to the installation of the hoist, thinking that there may be a local vendor that could possibly install the hoist as opposed to utilizing the company that's in Missouri. So with the help of our purchasing manager, Jason Hagan, we reached out to a vendor in Jacksonville that does some work at the St. Simons Marina, Consolidated Rigging, and asked if they would be willing to install a hoist that was not purchased from them. They said, yes, we can do that. And they gave us a written quote of $7,800. The company that bid on the hoist, Jason had conversation through emails today, written quote conversation, letting them know of what we were looking at and discussing it back and forth with them over the course of the day of how would this adjust their price, that what they would charge us to purchase the hoist from them, ship it to us, and then have another vendor install. And they were, of course, amenable to that, and they provided us with a new cost, which in total would be $25,875. That would include the equipment and then the shipping charges to get it here, and then from there, the company in Jacksonville could install it. So what I had originally intended to bring forth tonight was the bid from one company with the installation cost from that same company, but exploring those options, we've found a cost savings of $5,850 than the original bid if we split the purchase orders and split the work up so that we purchase from one company and have it shipped, and then we have the installation done by a local company. And so the motion that's, the thing that was originally to be considered for tonight, I've amended the recommended motion for your consideration. And I do apologize, this all happened rather quickly this afternoon, and so the motion that's on the board there does not note the cost of the purchase order to Consolidated Rigging of Jacksonville. So if y'all choose to go this route and decide that you would like to purchase this system and have it installed in this manner, we would need to possibly add the amount of $7,800 for Consolidated Rigging within that motion. But again, bringing forth the recommendation from the Park Advisory Board for you guys to consider if this is the direction that you want to go, or if you'd like to us to pursue other options.
Lisa, is it going to affect the warranty of the hoist if somebody other than the provider installs it? And you know, you always anticipate these things about, well, you know, oh, that was his fault. He installed it, and the other guy said, no, that's part of the deal you bought out there from somebody, and that's what we got. And so everybody's standing around pointing fingers.
My understanding, and I believe the communication we had with the vendor in Missouri today, is that it would not affect the warranty. There's a 1-year warranty, factory warranty on the parts.
Lisa, the freight quote, $2,000. That's the only one I got. That just seems high for it'll be on one pallet.
Maybe Jason can speak to that, but the original 15, so there were two parts to that first bid, so which is what we knew, that the 23 $875 was for the equipment. The way the first bid was, it included freight, installation, and startup.
And they were coming here to put it in.
And they were coming here to do it, and that was $15,650. So when Jason was communicating with that vendor today about, okay, so if we just buy it from you and you ship it to us, the quote that he gave us was $2,000 for that. So that cost was originally included in that installation charge, and it was, so they broke it out, and they would want to charge us $2,000 for shipping. And that may be even an estimate. It's very possible that it could be less than that. A lot of times vendors will charge more because they don't know until they actually get it.
Is that basically what he told you, 2,000?
Yes, sir. What I believe happened is they probably had some fluff in that 15,650 number. And when we started discussing
And now
having someone
they're
else do
trying to
it,
get a little of that fluff
they were trying to
back.
get it back. Yes, sir.
Okay.
My question is, the firm in Jacksonville, they did not submit a bid. Were they aware of this bid and they just chose not to submit it, but now they're willing to install it?
We posted the bid on the county website, the Georgia Procurement Registry, and downstairs in the Pate building, sir. I believe this company was aware that we had the bid out.
They were, yes, sir, they were. And I actually sent an email to several companies just to remind them that there's a bid out there. And this company did respond that they had lost a technician, that their manpower was less than it was, and they had some issues, but they intentionally did not bid. But they are definitely willing to do the installation. And also, as we move on down the road, to enter into a service agreement, annual inspections, and things like that, if we so choose to do that down the road.
You say this is the same vendor that does the hoist at the St. Simon's?
It is, and he's had been on site when we were having some issues with the hoist several months ago, so
Was he there? Was he the one that was there that day Sammy and I were out?
It might have been no, sir.
Dave was there. It was the guy that was telling us about the chain.
That's a
possibly.
different vendor. That's a
Okay.
different vendor. But he has been out there, and I've spoken to Mr. Jimmy Wheeler, who operates the St. Simon's Marina, and very highly recommended company. That's where I got the contact information from for this vendor. But unfortunately, it was a point in their business that they weren't able to provide a bid for us to purchase.
Well, I went online and put the specs on that hoist in, and I was coming up, these were $11,937.50. I was coming up anywhere from $12,000 to $14,000. So the price per hoist is not that bad. The only thing I really question is the freight charge, but freight is high, but it just seems like one pallet. I don't know where the factory is, but
Commissioner, you can drive out there and pick that thing up. I mean, we'd
Probably could.
pay you $750.
probably could. Depends on where it's at. Thank you, Lisa.
But again, maybe when the shipping actually when it occurs, it could be, perhaps it may be a little less. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Is he gonna bill us 2,000 or is he gonna bill us actual freight costs?
I think what they're explaining is they're making up some of the fluff that they had in the delivery and installation charge.
Yeah, no, I got that.
I would think.
I imagine that. And I did want to point out that, that the company did say that it could be an 8-week ship time from when the purchase order is issued to when it could be delivered. That's kind of that was included in their bid.
So we gotta keep Band-Aiding the hoist for 8 weeks.
And of course, if it's sooner, we'll get on it sooner, but that's what was included in the original bid
Now,
submitted.
on the motion, do we need to put the vendor's name in there, or we can just do installation of $7,800?
I do have the vendor's name. I think where it says the issuance of a purchase order, where'd it go? Thank you, Matthew. I'm glad he's running that, not me. Oh, where the second part of the motion.
I see it.
Yes, sir. It would just maybe need to be added that it would be in the amount of, so that we have that on the record. If this is how you choose to move forward. But it looks like I've got it at the end, and I apologize. Maybe I was in a hurry this evening trying to get this ready for y'all.
Thank you.
Mr. Attorney, do we need to make this in two separate motions, or can we cover it in one? Okay.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay.
I make the motion that we recommend the Park Advisory Board's recommendation that you're backing up for the $33,675 purchase order for the 3-ton hoist system for Blythe Island Regional Park.
Now, Lisa, is that how you understood?
It actually needs to be two separate purchase orders,
can you read
and
that?
I apologize, that's a little, most of that motion would be correct, other than adding the $7,800. Because we're looking at two vendors, it would have to be POs to two separate vendors, one to Engineered Lifting Systems for the actual hoist and shipping of $25,875 delivered, and then the second part would be a purchase order to Consolidated Rigging of Jacksonville for the labor and equipment to install them at a cost of $7,800, with the funding source as noted.
The total amount that I said covered that, is that correct?
It does cover that, and I don't know if the motion needs to be clear on how the POs are split.
Commissioners, I think if you wanted to make that motion as she's suggesting, is just read it off like that, and then.
Okay. I make the motion to approve the assurance of a purchase order to Engineered Lifting Systems LLC of Clinton, Missouri, for a 3-ton boat hoist system at Blythe Island Regional Park, as recommended by the Park Advisory Board, in the amount of $25,875 delivered, and the assurance of a purchase order to Consolidated Rigging in Jacksonville, Florida, for labor and equipment lifts to install the new electric 3-ton hoist supplied by Glynn County, with funding to be provided by the general fund, undesignated fund balance, undesignated fund balance, installation of $7,800.
I think we need to kill the first motion that we
Did
came
get a
out with.
second on that first motion?
Yeah, we
We'll
did.
go through the exercise to make sure we've got it right. All right. Do we want to kill the first one first, or take the second one and then go back to the first one?
No, I would kill the first one first. And
All
then
right,
move on to
so-
the second one.
A motion to revise, or motion to kill? Motion to kill the first motion. Do I have a second to kill the first motion?
Second.
All right. And all in favor of killing the first motion, raise your right hand. And then we have a motion and a second for the second motion to present as read. Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this? Then, all in favor, please raise your right hand. That is unanimous, and I think,
Does that work, Council?
what fun. All right.
Council, I don't remember, we may not need a motion to remove item 11, but I don't recall we ever got a motion, did we? To remove it. Remove it.
Okay. So we'll do that. Motion to remove item 11 from the agenda tonight.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to remove item 11 from the agenda tonight. All in favor, please raise your right hand. And that is unanimous. Mr. Attorney, I believe we have something for executive session.
We do, Mr. Chairman. We have a matter of property acquisition to discuss.
All right. Do I hear a motion to go into executive session? Have a motion to go into executive session, a second.
Second.
And this is for property. All in favor, please raise your right hand. That is unanimous. We stand recessed.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the executive session minutes of the March 18th and April 1st meetings.